Robert Saleh has officially abandoned the 49ers for the second time of his career, heading to the Tennessee Titans. I'm here with 49er Media, and we got a lot to talk about today. Welcome back, everybody, to the First and 49ers podcast. Your host, Cole McMahon, joined by 49er Media today. And obviously, the breaking news was yesterday after Robert Saleh had his interview with the Titans. He ended up signing a 5-year contract with them. But before we get into that a little bit, we also have some 49er news we got to get into. This was by 49er Media on his Instagram here. The 49ers have signed 14 free agents to reserve/future contracts. Before we get into this, how you doing, 49er Media? Sorry about that. I should have so rude of me.
No, all good. I'm doing well, man. Honestly, it's kind of nice having the off season, especially because it's like, okay, if the Niners are gonna get bounced out in the NFC Championship too, I guess it would have been better that it already happened. So
I was actually kind of talking about that. If
yeah,
considering the Niners made the playoffs, whatever, would you rather them lose in the NFC Championship game, the wild card, or the divisional game? If you had to choose, and honestly, I feel like the divisional round for me is kind of the best option because you're not a first round exit, but then you're
yeah,
not losing the conference championship to go to the Super Bowl. It's kind of like it is what it is.
yeah. And the Niners got right to business with signing these guys. I think it was pretty quickly because just like you and I were talking before we hit that live button, is majority of these guys were with the 49ers and at some capacity. Some
Yeah.
guys maybe newer to the practice squad. But yeah, again, these guys were, guys that were already on the practice squad, and now the Niners will build up to that 90-man roster. Remember, I believe it's only the top 51 contracts that have to fill up in the cap space. So yeah, I thought some interesting names on here, but like we're gonna get into it.
Yeah, you want to start listing them off, or
Yeah, sure. So we have offensive lineman Isaac Alcaroon. Um, this guy's been here for a while.
yeah,
I don't know what they like about him to keep bringing him back. Because I feel like I'd never see him elevated, or they just kind of have him there for depth. Um, so yeah, not really much there.
yeah. Evan Anderson, defensive lineman. He's a guy that has been brought up a couple
Mhm.
times for 49ers. I don't think this year, but
Yeah.
he was a factor a little bit last year. So I do know they kind of like him a little bit. I think he was a undrafted free agent.
Mhm.
I'm not,
Yes, so he was a undrafted free agent, not this last offseason, but the offseason before, from Florida Atlantic, and they had given him the most, I believe, guaranteed money out of any undrafted free agent that they signed. And then he was looking pretty good. And so he eventually made it onto that 53-man roster. But yeah, I'm surprised we didn't see him at all this year. Um, maybe we do now because I know a guy like Jordan Elliott's a free agent, which I
mhm.
don't really expect him to be back, honestly.
Yeah,
So, I'm sure the Niners will also add, a veteran, or, maybe they'll go more in the draft again, but
yeah.
um, definitely do not mind this one.
He's a big guy too. I'm looking at his
Yeah.
stature, 326 pounds. So got a lot of man force with him. So I understand kind of what the Niners are kind of what they see in
Mhm.
him.
Yeah.
Next one up, cornerback Eli Apple. I don't understand this one either. Eli Apple was good for like what 3 seasons on the Giants, and then kind of fell off a cliff. I don't know if we'll see him.
Yeah. I don't really know. It seems like they just like to have a veteran
Yeah,
like that in the room. I always make the joke whenever I see him elevated, because I know he was elevated a few times, that the Niners love the apple juice combination here with Kyle Juszczyk and Eli Apple. But yeah, I don't know what some of these guys. I'm just like, I don't know what they
yeah. I
like
guess just to
about.
build up to that 90-man roster, just guys that they're familiar with. I'm assuming.
Mhm. Also, shout out to Crazy Juice. 2578 and Captain Niner in the chat.
What's going on, guys? Oh yeah, we got some chats. Elliot can go sign somewhere else. I agree.
I agree.
We don't need him here.
Yeah.
Talofa faithful at work, but got you gents up. Appreciate you, Captain
Appreciate
Niner.
that.
You want to go to the next one here?
Yeah, sure. So this one is wide receiver Junior Berg in out of, I believe, Montana State. The Niners had drafted him, and then they're hyping him all up, being like, "Oh, he could be the kick return guy," and then he just ends up making the practice squad. Now, Sky Moore is a free agent. Maybe they bring him back, but I don't really mind this one because I mean, okay, like yes, they just cut a draft pick, but sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
And I mean, at least he's on the practice squad, so they're at least able to see something.
Yeah.
From him. And, if he doesn't really make strides this year, okay, in the off season, all right, that's fine. I'm not gonna harp over it.
Right.
That they, just left a guy. I mean, I get it. Also, some people are saying, well, the Niners don't have that many draft picks this year, so they really shouldn't have wasted a draft pick on him. And I do agree with that extent because maybe you could have gotten another defensive lineman, or maybe you get a guard,
Yeah.
or I mean, an offensive tackle you could have gone with
And he
that
was
pick
a
in
seventh
consideration.
round pick, right?
Yeah.
So I've like 7th round picks are really hit or miss too. Like I feel
Mhm.
like you don't see a lot of 7th rounders making the team unless you're I don't know. I forgot one big 7th rounder.
I mean,
Well,
Jawan Jennings is a perfect example because
yeah.
if you remember coming out of Tennessee, I think he got hurt or something.
Yeah.
So, like, they were to keep him kind of on the practice squad, like IR.
Mhm.
And then finally, the year after, it's like we see him on the roster, and the rest is basically, history.
Yeah. That's a great example. So I mean, it's possible we could see maybe Junior Bergen become that guy eventually.
Yeah.
But for yeah, like you said, kick return or punt return, whatever they wanted him for, who knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, that is interesting to see what the Niners will do with Sky Moore. But let's see, next man up. This guy I know was like at the USFL or like the UFL or XFL,
Yeah,
defensive lineman
something
William
like that.
Bradley King. I think that's just another depth piece for like the 90-man roster.
Mhm.
Um, Shocked that we didn't see him come up this year, considering all the injuries as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Linebacker Andrew Farmer the second. I don't know much about this guy either.
Yeah, it seems like he's more of an edge guy though,
Hmm.
because I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, he was a guy from,
With the
I want to
Chargers.
say Florida State is where he got. Let me see. I don't remember what college he went to.
He attended Lane College for 2 seasons where he appeared in 18
Okay.
games, registered 114 tackles. This is on the 49ers website. 17 and a half sacks. So I think, yeah, he's an edge guy. So he probably runs more like in that, what, 3-4 defense usually?
Let me see. Okay, I swear I remember this other guy named Farmer, and I kept thinking he went to
Different guy.
Bernardo Green School, Florida State, but that's
Oh,
not the
yeah.
case. But yeah, I mean, it's whatever. Derek Forrest, I think they had this guy on the practice squad, but I don't know if he was on there for too long. I think this was one of the recent
Yeah.
signings once Jair Brown went out,
Mhm.
if I'm not
He
mistaken.
was signed 6 days ago.
Yeah, okay.
And yeah, when we were still playing football. So I
Yeah.
think that was the Jair Brown injury one. And then Jalen Graham, which that one is how long has he been on the team for now? Is this his 3rd year?
Let's see. He got drafted, I believe, the same year as D. Winters, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think he was like a 7th, 5th or
Yeah, he
6th.
was a seventh round pick. Um, and then I think we had him on for a year or whatever. I know he had gone through kind of our practice squad and the Commanders practice squad, but then the Commanders obviously didn't really care. And then the Niners, I think, must have had an injury, and that's why they brought him back.
Yeah.
Um, More of a special teams guy. I
Mhm.
really don't mind it.
Yeah,
Um, just because we know how many linebackers get hurt too with this team. So,
right.
yeah.
This one I feel like is pretty interesting. The
Mm,
Niners brought back Adrian Martinez, so the Niners will
yeah.
have I mean, unless they decide on trading Mac Jones, they'll have 4 QBs on the roster going
Yeah.
into the offseason because they do have Curtis Rourke, who I
Right.
think could be interesting. Came off of the non-football injury list, off of that ACL that he suffered at Indiana, right?
Yeah, he suffered at Indiana, and then the Niners opened up his practice window a few weeks ago just so that he could, I guess, get some practice. So he's a guy that I'm definitely watching in, the early part of, training camp, OTAs,
Yeah,
whatnot. But maybe somehow Mac Jones, yeah, is traded, and um, but yeah, kind of interesting that Adrian Martinez was brought back.
I
I feel like if Mac Jones stays put, the Niners won't really be doing much at quarterback this
definitely not.
offseason, that means,
Yeah,
so,
Curtis Rourke will probably be back on the practice squad. They'll cut Martinez if Mac Jones is back,
yeah,
which I hope he is back.
mhm.
But speaking of Indiana, though, shout out them. Did you watch that game last night?
Yeah, that was
I th
crazy.
I thought it was gonna be a
Carson Beck
blowout.
choking again. Yeah,
Yeah,
I thought so too, but there's some receivers I will say I like on their team that I think the Niners should take a look at,
yeah.
yeah.
And that one guy, I think he was a Miami player, Bain, that defensive end. That's the
Mm.
first time I've seen him play before. I was like, "This guy's good." And I was like, "Where is he projected to go?" He's projected to go, like, top 5, top 10. I'm like, "Dang."
On Miami, right?
I think Miami, yeah.
Yeah, I saw some
That guy's
tweet
a
about
menace.
today that was like like these 2 guys were good.
Ruben Bain
Like
Jr.
even yeah, okay. Yeah, I haven't gotten too much into the draft except I've watched
Yeah, me
some
either.
wide
I was like,
receivers
yeah.
a little bit, but
Ooh,
yeah.
604 Lobos in the chat. What's up, y'all? Sorry for the 41-6 loss. Curtis Rourke went to my high school in Canada. His older brother plays for the BC Lions. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Hoo, Hoosiers.
Yeah.
Charlie Becker, is that one of the right wide receivers?
I think so.
That's what 604 Lobos just said.
Yeah.
Nice.
You know I want all my Arizona guys. There's
Yeah,
already
of
2
course.
guys. There's
We only
already
got one
elite
person on
no.
the team, Jacob Cowan. How many can we need?
There's I think 2 guys at least that I know that could get drafted. One's like a corner that I really like.
Mm,
I'm interested to see what his 40 is, but it's Traden Stukes.
mm,
Um, who's pretty good, I think. But anyways, then we've got Drake Nugent, the center. I really don't mind this.
yeah.
It's like interesting because the Niners have tried so many times to try to see if they can develop centers like that are UDFAs. And I think the biggest knock on him was his hands, because if you remember, they had that guy from ASU a few years ago, West. Can't remember what his first name was.
Sounds familiar.
Donovan West, I think it was. Yes. Um,
And he was a
and so
center?
like so the Niners have been trying to see if they
Yeah.
could develop, I guess, a guy, but I really think they need to just get rid of Jake Brendel. Even though Jake Brendel, I thought had a pretty good season, I didn't really see many penalties from him.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I'd like the Niners to get younger there. Brandon Parker, the Niners seem to like him. Malik
Oh,
Turner, I know we were talking about this just before we got on,
special teamer.
but
Yeah.
more of a special team guy.
He
And
also
then
had a
Sebastian Valdez,
essential
the
drop off,
Hulk.
though.
I don't mind that with
Kevin
Sebastian
Valdez.
Valdez.
Yeah, the Hulk. And he was, like, one of the best players on the practice squad because he did get elevated a couple times, to
But just for
the
the check.
for the check, yeah, for the starting roster, and I saw a thing, Shanahan was like, "Yeah, so he was, like, one of the biggest, hardest workers on the team, so he gets that game day check." So shout out to him. I wanna see him hopefully develop a lot this offseason. I'd love to see him on the field because he
Yeah,
looked pretty
I
good.
think the Niners honestly got lucky though,
Mhm.
because I think if this draft class wasn't as deep at defensive lineman, I think he would have gotten picked up.
Wow. Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
All right, well, that is the 14 free agents the 49ers signed, so I
The
think it's
official
only
reserve
right.
future contracts. Yep.
Yeah, future contracts. I think it's only right now we gotta talk about the biggest news, and that is Robert Saleh going to
Yep.
the Tennessee Titans on a 5-year contract.
Yep.
And the Niners will be going on to their 5th defensive coordinator in 5 seasons. Before we dive into all this, though, guys, make sure you follow 49er Media also on YouTube,
Yeah.
Instagram, X. Keep him growing there, and you can follow me, First and 49ers, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and X as well. Make sure to leave the like, leave a comment. Thank you guys all for being in the chat right now as well. But what were your initial reactions for our media about Robert Saleh
Yeah.
getting out?
So when I saw it, I was like, damn it. Um, and then I wasn't as mad because when the Niners hired him, like there'd already been reports about him he's gonna have interest the following year, and that's exactly what happened. Um, unfortunately, the Niners do not get the third round picks because he did have to be here for at least 2 years.
Yeah.
So that's unfortunate, but I thought Salah did a really good job. Um, but man, I need them to hire someone that's like a Spagnolo where they're not gonna leave
Yeah.
because I'm just tired of the Niners having to keep dealing with this like defensive coordinator carousel.
Mhm.
And you wonder why the defense looks up and down so much is because you don't have a sustainable,
Yeah, you don't have the
you don't
consistency.
have the consistent same defensive coordinator like some teams. And so I don't know. The Niners need to find a way to get a defensive coordinator that's not going to leave and is, just as good basically as a coordinator. Um, but yeah, I wasn't really surprised, a little bit disappointed, but
Mhm.
also not super disappointed because I saw this one
Yeah.
coming.
Yeah, my initial reactions when I saw it, I was like, "Really?" Like, the Tennessee Titans? He had the head
Yeah.
coaching interview
Hey, better
yesterday.
than the Cardinals.
Better than the Cardinals for sure. I just thought there was gonna be more enticing jobs, so I don't know, it's whether
Yeah, like the
because the
Ravens or something.
Ravens, I thought the Steelers, I don't think he had an interview with the Steelers, but I thought there was potential franchises he could have gone to, but maybe there wasn't, mutual interest on both sides, but then I was diving into a little bit more. I was like, "This Titans team actually could be really interesting." Cam Ward was starting to finally find himself, I feel like, the last couple games of the season. Obviously, their head coach, was it Callahan, got fired, like, week 6 or somewhere in the middle of the season. But Cam Ward started to find himself a little bit. He had a couple of good games against the Browns. And you can see why he was the number one overall pick. So he was a rookie this
Yeah.
last season. But then on top of it, obviously they're one of the worst teams in the league. They got the fourth overall pick. And that's when I kind of started realizing after I watched that national championship yesterday, say, hey, Robert Saleh could draft this guy, Bain, that we saw on the Miami defensive line. That dude is an animal. And I think it was CBS Sports, they actually projected Bain to go to the Titans. So it's kind of interesting. So I feel like Saleh kind of saw his opportunity there. Um, but one of the biggest things too is Robert Saleh obviously is going to fix up that defense, and they got some good
Yeah,
pieces there. Jeffrey
like
Simmons,
Chip.
yeah, yeah,
Then they have that young guy, defensive tackle too. Is it
yeah.
Sweat?
Yeah. I think it is it not Montez Sweat. It's another Sweat, I think, right?
Yeah, let me see.
But yeah,
I think.
CBS Sports projects Ruben Bain Jr. to go to the Titans' fourth overall pick. I could see that definitely. That dude looks like a monster.
Yeah, let me see.
And on top
Oh,
of it too,
Tavondre Sweat. That is who I was
Montez
thinking.
Sweat.
Yeah.
It'll
Yeah.
be interesting too because now he joins the AFC South, where you guys
Yep.
remember was it week 3 against the Jaguars? Liam Cohn, that beef with
Yeah.
Robert Saleh. I'm gonna end your life after the game. That's gonna be
Yeah.
a fun rivalry to see. And
Yeah.
then D'Amico Ryans is also in that division, and
Hmm.
then the Colts are also pretty good. So he's going
Yeah.
into a developing division. I feel like.
Yeah. And I mean they have, a quarterback this time around where the
Mhm.
Jets are just dysfunctional as
Yeah,
hell. Um,
as always.
maybe they take a receiver with that pick too, because I definitely think they do need receiver help.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, it was an interesting landing spot. I thought he'd go for a team like the Ravens, like I said, because I still
Lamar
think they're
Jackson.
ready to win. It's just they had a lot of injuries and just weren't as good as the Niners in terms of like, that and some of his coaching and whatnot,
Mhm.
personnel. So I really thought he maybe goes there. But maybe, the Ravens were anyways gonna move on,
Yeah,
and go another direction. That could have also been a possibility, but I'm happy for Salah at least that he gets, his chance to try to see if he can prove it again. Maybe if not, he'll come back. But
Third time around in 3
yeah,
years when that or in 5 years when his contract's up, or
yeah,
sooner if he gets fired. I think the Titans might need to find an offensive coordinator, so
yeah.
hopefully he doesn't steal do we have I think Clay Kubiak on our
So the thing is, I don't think he can though because Kyle Shanahan already said like he's
head
calling plays anyways. Basically, Kyle Shanahan's like, no, you can't take him unless you're making him a head coach.
okay,
Which I know the Raiders have interest in him.
yeah,
I don't remember if there's any other teams that have interest in him, but basically, yeah, he wouldn't be able to go to the Titans because
mhm,
that would be a lateral move. And again, Kyle Shanahan already said it. Like that's not gonna.
yeah, you ain't taking my guy
Yeah,
just to
yeah.
be another OC somewhere else.
I just hope he does not take the special teams coordinator.
Oh, I know. What, Brant Boyer?
Yeah.
Hopefully not.
Which the Titans have, I think, one of the top special teams coaches, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about that, but what about Mike McDaniel going to the Titans as offensive coordinator? I think he could do some special
Yeah,
things
that
with
could be an
Cam
interesting. I
Ward.
mean, you got Cam Ward.
Look what he did with Tua. Like, Tua's not even
Yeah,
that good. I mean, concussions,
yeah,
but he
yeah,
made him into a playoff team with them. So
yeah.
I
And then
think
if you add like
he's solid.
actual weapons and stuff to him, like,
Mhm.
you know. But yeah, should we get into possible replacements?
I think we should. Do you wanna go first, or do you
Sure.
want me to go first? Okay.
Okay, so my first very, I think, realistic, very possible, I think, outcome, and that is he's already in the organization. He was basically gave him the assistant head coach and like
Assistant head
defense.
coach of the defense, yeah.
Yeah, head coach of the defense. He really worked on that secondary, especially in that red zone. And that is Gus Bradley. He, has head coaching experience, defensive coordinator experience, like with the Colts. Um, I think he's realistic, big possibility that the Niners go with him if they do want to, stick with the scheme. He was one of the guys who kind of started the wide nine scheme. So I think also the Niners had this whole Salah thing in mind, and I think they were prepared for this. Now we'll see them obviously interviewing other guys because they do have to fulfill that Ronnie rule, which means that they have to basically go out and interview people that are like in the minority. And one of those possible candidates we'll get into here in a little bit. But yeah, I think Gus Bradley makes a lot of sense.
Yep, he's my number one also. I think that's the most obvious choice. Like you said, media, that was, I feel like, the contingency plan because I think Shanahan knew Robert Saleh was going to be out
Yeah.
of the house after this season. And Gus Bradley, like you said, also 16 years of NFL experience as a head coach and offensive coordinator. He was a Seahawks DC from 2009 2012, the Jacksonville Jaguars head coach from 2013 2016, the Chargers defensive coordinator from 17 to 20, then the Raiders for a season in 21, and then most recently before the Niners, he was the Colts defensive coordinator from 2022 to 2024. And like you said, it wouldn't be a change for the 49ers and their defense. And I think that's something that the Niners have had an issue with having different defensive coordinators every single season. They don't
Mhm.
have the consistency. And I found this quote on Niners Nation by Rohan Chakravarthi. Apologize if I butchered his last name. But this was from Diamador Lenore talking about Gus Bradley. He said, Gus helped us a lot, just figuring out stuff in the strike zone areas. He was in charge of the red zone, and he has so much knowledge for us. And speaking of the red zone, too, that's huge that he brought that up because the Niners, obviously, their defense kind of sucked this season. I think they're like
Yeah.
well, they're like in the middle of the pack, but a lot of the stuff obviously got blown up by the Seahawks. But their best
Mhm.
defensive statistical stat this season was their red zone defense. They were 12th in the league in red zone touchdown percentage allowed at 53.8%. So if Gus Bradley ends up being the defensive coordinator, he gets promoted to that for the 49ers, we can probably see this red zone defense continuously staying where it's at and probably even get better, hopefully. Um,
Mhm.
but I think that's one good thing to see that Lenore, and it looks like a lot of the guys in the locker room really like Gus Bradley already. I also saw a thing Fred Warner was talking about him, saying Gus Bradley, um, like is just a big guy in the locker room, and along
Mhm.
with them a lot, and he like tells like these stories before the games or like practices and everything. And I didn't know this before. D'Amico Ryans and Robert Saleh actually coached under him before, and that's
Mhm.
where they kind of got their coaching styles from Gus Bradley. So it's
Yeah.
essentially an extension of D'Amico Ryans and Robert Saleh. You're at
Mhm.
the source of it. So Gus Bradley honestly makes the most sense for the 49ers, and we know Shanahan likes guys that he knows. So that's why I think Gus Bradley is the most obvious choice.
Yeah, and also there was an article from Yahoo Sports where Tim Kawakami said that Gus Bradley is the top choice to replace Saleh's DC. That's essentially what he was brought in for this season. Um, when talking about the next defensive coordinator, and I think Tim Kawakami is one of the closest guys to that 49ers organization.
Mhm.
He's known for reporting these kind of stuff, so I'm definitely listening there. But again, the Niners will have to go through that whole process, so it's not going to be a quick thing about, oh, it's Gus Bradley.
Yeah,
Also, you do want to see, okay, if other guys become available. Again, we're going to get into one of these guys. Maybe Cole's about to talk
yeah.
about it next, but who do you have as the next guy?
Before I bring up the next one, I wanna bring one that's probably not too obvious or anything like that. I don't see the Niners actually, like, elevating him, but KJ Wright, before I get into my next one,
Mm,
that could potentially be a coordinator if we hire a guy and he leaves the next season, that KJ Wright could potentially be the next defensive coordinator because 'cause we've seen it before, like, D'Amico Ryans was the
mm,
linebackers coach. KJ Wright obviously was the NFL linebacker for the Seahawks and the Raiders for a season, and
yeah,
he's the defensive quality control coach, but I think that's just something to keep in mind for the future. But my
yeah.
next one
Yeah,
that could
no, I agree. I don't
yeah,
think he's quite ready because I'm sure if okay, he's the defensive quality controls coach, probably wants to get into like defensive pass game coordinator and
yeah, I don't
you
think they
know
wanna go with a rookie
yeah.
coordinator yet.
Yes, I think maybe in like 2, 3 years.
Mhm. So, I'll go with my next one, going off of Gus Bradley and Shanahan liking to hire guys that he actually knows and has a relationship with. This one I could potentially see happening. I don't know it yet, but it's gonna be Raheem Morris for
Mm,
me. The Niners or Shanahan and Raheem Morris have known each other since 2004. They actually coached together with the Bucks, and then again together in 2015 with the Washington then Redskins. But Raheem Morris obviously got fired this season as the Falcons head coach, so he's got head coaching. Um, he's been a head coach before, and he was also the Rams defensive coordinator from 21 to 23. I feel like the biggest knock on him, though, is that he runs a different defensive scheme that the Niners like to run. So the Niners
yeah.
run the 4-3 base defense with the wide nine, like we
Mhm.
talked about earlier, but Raheem Morris runs that 3-4 base defense, which I could see being an issue for the 49ers. I don't know if Raheem Morris has had any opportunities or interviews for head
Yeah, I
coaching
don't think
positions. I
I've
haven't really
seen.
heard. He's not very
Yeah,
high on the chain, I feel like this coaching
yeah.
off season.
Uh-huh.
But he's had a pretty good career for the most part, especially on that Rams team. Um, but in this season, the Falcons were 14th overall, I think, on defense. Um, as the head coach for the Falcons, their defense was ranked 19th and 23rd, so honestly
Mm,
not the best.
yeah,
Obviously, he wasn't the defensive coordinator, but he's the defensive-minded coach there. But
yeah,
then he had some success with the Rams as well. I think his best season was 2021, where they were 3rd in sacks with 50 on the season, 3rd in interceptions with 19, and they only allowed 21.9 points per game. In the 2023 season, they had 41 sacks. So obviously, that Aaron
yeah.
Donald at that time too, which is a big
Mhm.
factor. But I think Raheem
Yeah,
could be one of my
yeah.
potential candidates.
I don't know. I'm iffy on this one,
Hmm.
but like also there's other candidates out there, and I'd probably rather have Gus Bradley, which I know some people don't really like
Yeah.
that option much. And by the way, I know some people thought that Jeff Ulbrich could be a possibility, but actually the Falcons had already announced that he'll be back. So
Hmm.
otherwise, I thought he'd be like it'd be him and you know Brent like Staley as my kind of top two. But again, he's not an Jeff Ulbrich's not an option. So
Yeah.
um,
All right. Want to go with
yeah.
yours next then?
Yeah, so the next guy I have is Jim Schwartz with the um, Browns, and that's because he I think was the guy that like actually started the whole wide nine thing.
Yeah.
Um, and this one, I know he's getting some head coaching interview. I know he interviewed for the Browns. Would I be shocked that he gets the job? Not really, just because it's the Cleveland Browns. Um,
Yeah,
if he's available, I'd probably take him and then Gus Bradley as my number two. Um,
definitely.
Again, this guy basically started the wide nine. He's been very good. I'm in Cleveland, right? For whatever slack they get, well, their defense has always been good, and I get it. They have Miles Garrett, but if Nick Bosa is able to stay healthy, maybe you're able to make Michael Williams could take a huge step, possibly. I really think Jim Schwartz, man, would work really good with this team. You're not gonna have to change things up too much. I don't think a team would also hire him as like a head coach, hopefully.
Yeah,
Um, like if he's not, I mean, because I think literally the Browns are the only team
that are, yeah, interviewing him for a head
that are
coaching
interviewing
position.
them. Yeah, which a lot of teams will, interview internal candidates. Like you'll see that with the Niners, other than Gus Bradley, right? They'll interview some of these other guys, inside the organization too. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think Jim Schwartz, man, again, top of my list. I'd be ecstatic if the Niners can somehow get him.
He's my number 2 on my list also. I was trying to go Raheem Morris as, like, my bottom of the list. I was going
Mm,
from bottom to top. So, besides, Gus Bradley, because he was an internal option, but, yeah, Jim Schwartz was gonna be my next one. 22 years as a NFL coach, so he's
mm,
got the experience. Shanahan loves him,
yeah.
and here's actually
He
a
also
post,
owns Shanahan
and
quite
he
a bit.
also owns Shanahan, yeah. So you think Shanahan probably wants to get this guy off the market. Let's see if this pops up. This is Akash Anavarathon on Jim Schwartz, Kyle Shanahan on Jim Schwartz. I've got a lot of respect for Jim. I think he's one of the best who does it. He's done it for a while, but when I first started as a coordinator in Houston back when I was 28, 29, going against him in Tennessee is where it started, where they had Vander Bosch, Albert Hainsworth, Javon Curse, and they were doing the wide nines then. And that's why I always wanted wide nines. And we got that with Chris Kursick. Chris, yeah, Kursick. I can never pronounce that last name either. But I think that's huge. Like, obviously, Shannon has wanted Jim Schwartz for a while now. And he's the closest thing. Jim Schwartz is the wide nine. So if
Yeah,
there's anyone that Shanahan would probably want the most, it's Jim Schwartz because they don't have to switch up anything. Obviously,
yeah.
Chris Kasarik runs the wide nine as well, that defensive lineman coach. And I
Mhm.
think he is the best option, like you were saying, media is, the
I
Browns have got
think he's also kind of like I don't think he's gonna
like
have again
Spagnuolo.
much interest. Yeah, again, like
Yeah,
I think he's the
exactly.
Spagnuolo basically of the wide nine, where it's like I just don't see him getting a head coaching job. I'd be kind of surprised, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So, yeah,
Especially because I mean, he's been doing this for years now. I would have
yeah,
thought that if
he's been a head
he was
coach once, I
actually gonna
think.
get a head coaching job, like, he would have done it before.
Yeah, he was a head coach in 2009 to 2013, and then after
Yeah,
that, he's just been a defensive coordinator
yeah.
with Philly from 16 to 19, originally with the Titans from '01 to '08.
Mhm.
But this
Yeah.
last season with the Browns, they're 14th overall in the NFL. Obviously, it's hard to be in a top 10 defense when your whole team sucks as a whole. 20, only allowed 22.3 points per game, 11 interceptions, 15 fumbles forced, and 53 sacks, which
Yeah.
is way
We'll
more than
see.
the Niners had this season.
Yeah, no, and
Niners
that's the
had 20.
thing where the Niners, like, defensively, like, Saleh, I think, really changed the culture and the mentality, but
Yeah.
obviously the Niners still need to get better at stopping that run.
Mhm.
Um, Secondly, I mean, obviously with the injuries too, right? Like, they just could not get after the quarterback. They
Yeah.
just were not getting those sacks. And then, like, I also just think turnovers were another thing. They didn't really have too many
They didn't get
turnovers
any.
this year.
Yeah.
So, I definitely think that needs to be another kind of mentality thing that the Niners need to work on. But yeah, man, Jim Schwartz, I think would be fantastic.
Yeah. It's funny because I just want to bring up the stat real quick about the Niners defense because they were literally the epitome of bend don't break. They were ranked, I think, number 12 in the NFL on defense, but they had the least amount of sacks in the NFL as well. They had 20 sacks. That's like I think it was 15 less than the Titans or somebody that had sacks in the NFL. Let me see really quick. Let me pull it up here. 2025. Okay, so they had 20 sacks, and then if we go to sacks right here, who had the most, had the least. Niners had 20 sacks. The next team up, it was the New York Jets. They were 31st overall, and they had 26 sacks. So pretty impressive still, considering the Niners couldn't get to the quarterback at all. 20 sacks in the season, and they were still ranked 12 overall on defense. But that was just a quick thing I wanted to bring up there. But yeah, Jim
Yeah.
Schwartz, I think, would be the dream scenario. And to go even further in the dream, then the Niners trade for Myles Garrett. Imagine that. That'd be awesome. Won't happen, but that'd be
Yeah. Yeah, no. Again, Jim Schwartz, top of my list here.
yeah. Now, do you want to go again, or should I? Well, technically, because
You
I
can
went.
go ahead.
Oh yeah, it's my turn technically. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my pretty much the last guy on the list, and then after I bring up mine, I don't know how many more you have on your list, but I also have an article that I brought up earlier before the show that we could talk about too for
Mhm.
potential defensive coordinators. But my next one on the list would be Brian Flores, and this one seems really unlikely because today he actually just had a head coach interview. What was it with the Steelers, right?
Yeah.
With the Steelers. And I think he's probably one of the hottest commodities out there for a
Yeah.
defensive coordinator for sure. The way he's been able to beef up that Vikings defense. But he, again, that's one of the big knocks. I just don't know if Shanahan wants to move off of the wide nine and the 4-3 base defense.
Yeah, and then he's also known for blitzing a lot, and the
Yeah.
Niners really have never done that.
Mhm.
Obviously, they were blitzing more this year because of the injuries, because they're
Yeah.
like they couldn't get pressure, right? But yeah, no, I think again, like you said, this is unlikely. He's getting some head coaching, opportunities.
Yeah.
Again, because with Jim Schwartz, yeah, he got a head coaching one, but that's internally. I
Mhm.
haven't seen any other team wanting to interview him. So yeah, Brian Flores. I don't know how I'd feel about it too, just because yeah, you'd be changing up. I think the
Be
scheme.
changing it, but I really think the Niners would be successful. I wouldn't mind a
Yeah,
change, honestly, because you hear a lot of back and forth about the wide nine, like, oh, it's outdated, and
yeah,
for people that don't really know what the wide nine is, it basically means the defensive line is just really spread out pretty far out on the line. And it makes it more difficult for like tight ends that are lined up towards the slot. So like if Nick Bosa is coming off the edge, it kind of they almost run across from each other. So it kind of disrupts it just a tiny bit,
yeah.
and it gives them like better pass to the quarterback.
It's
In
just the
theory.
stop and the run is where the issue. Yeah,
That's the
which
biggest
it makes sense that the Niners also
yeah,
aren't great at it because it's like okay if it's spread out much, right?
yeah,
Like you
bigger
just
holes to run through
yeah,
from the start of the play. But a little bit about Brian Flores too, which it's unlikely, but it's one of my top candidates who I'd want the Niners to get, even though it is a different defense. But he was a head coach before. Also, it didn't work out 2019 to 2021. I had that beef with Tua. He absolutely hated Tua. I remember that. Um, and then he's been the Vikings defensive coordinator from 2023 to 2025. And this Vikings defense this year they were ranked number 7 overall. They only allowed 19.6 points per game. They were 5th in sacks this season with 49. They were 25th though in the NFL in interceptions. Only had 8 interceptions on defense, but then number 1 with forced fumbles with 18. And that's one of the biggest stats too, because the Niners, at least Fred Warner, is known for the peanut punches. They didn't have a lot of turnovers this season, but imagine a Brian Flores kind of defensive coordinator, just like it sounds like fumbles, punching the ball out was a big thing for this Vikings defense. So that would be something to look out for.
yeah. Like I said, I don't know how much I feel about that, just because again he's getting the head coaching opportunities. Also, I
Right.
just think you'd be changing up the defense because I just don't know if the Niners really have the personnel to be blitzing
Mm,
like crazy too.
right.
So I don't know. I wouldn't hate it though. But yeah,
But
my
since you're
next
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, no, no. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, look at our linebackers though. Like outside of Fred Warner, like Bethune and Winters, I feel like they've been terrible in coverage. So make them
Yeah.
blitz more because they're hard hitters. Just make them blitz more. Maybe they
Yeah.
do have the personnel. We just don't know. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think he's very highly unlikely, and I could see him honestly as a Steelers head coach because they like defensive minded coaches. They've only had three. They only had three coaches in their entire as an organization. I think the
Mhm.
Steelers has Mike Tomlin, um, and two other guys. I forgot the last two guys' names.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, my next guy, and I believe I saw 49ers Axis bring up this name, it might have been, and that is Matt Burke of the
Mm.
um,
Texans.
Texans. Now, this one could be also unlikely because he has the title of defensive coordinator, but I don't think he's the one calling plays. I'm pretty sure D'Amico Ryans calls them, if I'm not mistaken. So,
Yeah, I did see the article today. This was from the beginning of the season that Ryans actually did turn over the play calling duties to him, and this was Sports Illustrated. So I think it's true, but it could be
yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, so I don't know if they really could go after him because yeah, if he's calling the plays, then it's pretty much a no-no.
Yeah,
Um, but if he's not, like I'm not really sure how it would work because he still has the defensive coordinator like role
yeah,
like in the name. So I don't know, but this would be an interesting one. Um,
yeah.
like if they
Their
somehow
that
could.
Houston defense was scary, but yeah, this is the
Yeah,
article I saw. This was from the beginning of the season that Ryans did hand over the play calling duties to DC Matt Burke so he could focus on the entire operation, which includes putting more attention on the offense. And boy, did it work out, Alexander wrote. So potentially would
yeah,
be a lateral move,
yeah.
if that were the case.
Yes, I don't know. Like, yeah, I think it seems unlikely, but I wouldn't. I'd give him a shot. Like, if
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Now, do you have any more on your list? Because I think I ran out of my top 5.
No, I don't think I have any more.
Okay. Then we can get into I think I have 2 articles. I'll bring up this first one. This is 49ers Sports Illustrated by Parker Hurley. This was 2 hours ago. Yeah, go ahead. 5 defensive coordinator candidates with ties to the 49ers, Kyle Shanahan. So a couple of these guys we already talked about already, so I think we'll skip over them. But there was a few that were very interesting. So obviously number 1 on the list, I think, is Raheem Morris. Raheem Morris, obviously number 1, yeah, for the Falcons. We talked about him already, had success with the Rams, and then obviously was the head coach for the Falcons the last 2 seasons before he got fired. But this one kind of stuck out to me here, and I didn't think of him at all before, but Aiden Durd, Seattle Seahawks defensive coordinator. How can the 49ers beat the Seahawks defense other than to steal from it? Durd is from England and got his start in the NFL in 2016 with the Bill Walsh NFL Diversity Fellowship. He joined the Falcons staff when Shanahan was the offensive coordinator, so they know each other. And he runs the Seahawks defense, but does not call plays under Mike McDonald. So this would be a promotion. This is really interesting to me because I don't think this one's highly likely either. But imagine the 49ers taking away the Seahawks defensive coordinator. It would be a promotion for Durd because he'd be calling the plays. And then basically, it's a one up for the 49ers over the Seahawks, which Niners need as many one ups as they can get because this Seahawks team is going to be good for a long time. And this is how we're going to get into this definitely later on in the offseason. But the whole thing for the 49ers this offseason has got to be how do you build a team to beat the Seattle Seahawks? Because I think that's going to be the key these next few years.
Hmm.
So Aiden Durd, I think, is a really interesting one.
Yeah, I'd seen this name yesterday too.
Mhm.
I didn't realize he was with like the Bill Walsh
Yeah,
Fellowship program, which is quite
Finnish.
interesting. And then the Niners could, you know, take him,
That
I
was just add
guess,
to the rivalry.
which I
Take your
wouldn't
guy.
mind, I guess, but
Yeah.
yeah, quite interesting.
Next on the list, and I think I did see this one. Actually, I think I just saw this one on this article. Aubrey Pleasant, who's the
Mm,
assistant head coach and passing coordinator for the Rams. This one I feel like would be highly unlikely because he hasn't been a defensive coordinator before. But
yeah.
Pleasant has been considered a rising star and started as an offensive assistant in 2013 under Kyle Shanahan. Pleasant stuck around Washington after Shanahan left, which allowed him to work with Sean McVay. And he spent time in Detroit and Green Bay, but now is the assistant head coach and passing coordinator for the Rams. Would he leave to go back with the coach who helped him from the start? That one's unlikely. I don't really like that one.
Yeah.
Bobby Babick from the Bills, the defensive coordinator, was the assistant DB coach for the Browns when Shanahan was the offensive coordinator, and he worked under McDermott in the Bills since 2017, but only called plays for the last 2 years. So it would also be a lateral move.
Yeah, I don't know. And also, I've actually heard some people say, could Sean McDermott
That
be a
would be crazy.
DC? But I just don't see it. I feel like some team would have an interest in him.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if the Browns don't hire Schwartz. That I could see McDermott somehow going
No,
there.
yeah, yeah.
Anthony Weaver, I think we talked about him, didn't we not?
Didn't he already get hired?
I don't know. I could have sworn we just talked about this guy's name though a second ago. Yeah, look it up. And that's the last guy on this list. And this isn't just top candidates for the 49ers.
Oh, okay. So he has a interview with the Steelers.
Okay. So that one would be interesting as well. But these were just 5 coordinators that have ties to Kyle Shanahan, just not the top coordinators.
Yeah.
Here is one last article really quick, and it kind of goes back to what you said with Tim Kawakami. And it's talking about Gus Bradley as well, because I think out of all the guys we've talked about, I think in-house is probably the move for the 49ers, and it is Gus Bradley. And like you said before media, Tim Kawakami said Gus Bradley is a top choice to replace Saleh as defensive coordinator. That's essentially what he was brought in for the season. So it's looking like things are panning out for Bradley to be the defensive coordinator. And I would not be shocked if that happened after probably after the Super Bowl, because I'm sure that obviously the Niners have to do some interviews to fulfill that one rule, but I think Gus Bradley is probably the biggest option for the Niners.
Okay, so an interesting tweet that I just saw pop up, and this was tweeted by Akash Anwar, who we were just talking about a few minutes ago. He says, I've seen this floating around, but there's some Jim Schwartz ties to the 49ers. Defensive line coach Chris Kusurik, coach for Schwartz in Detroit. And then DB's coach Daniel Bullocks played for Schwartz in Detroit.
Mm-hmm. So they're saying for Daniel Bullocks? Or they saying Jim Schwartz, Daniel Bullocks?
Well, no, so they're saying like Jim Schwartz has connections with those 2 guys in the
on the Niners.
Corey Undelin and Matt Burke also have connections with Schwartz as previous stops.
Interesting.
Undelin was with SF previously, and both now with D'Amico Ryans in Houston as the DC and passing game coordinator. There's some interesting names.
I heard this one also. I'll bring up really quick. And the Niners actually interviewed him last year before they hired Robert Saleh.
Was it the Chiefs guy?
This is Dashia Townsend.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
He coming back. So he was with the Lions. He was the defensive backs and passing games coordinator. But he wasn't hired, obviously, by the 49ers.
I know they also had interviewed, after the Super Bowl, some guy from the Chiefs, I remember.
Really? I don't remember that. But you might
see if I can
right.
find it in one of my posts, because I know I...
49ers Chiefs interview. 49ers Chiefs coordinator interview. Let's see. Excuse me. So the Chiefs have requested. Excuse me. Yeah, it's probably buried in a ton of old news. But overall, I think those are pretty good candidates that we talked about.
Yeah, let me see if I can find it.
I'll bring up this one article too while you go find it. Just talking about Jim Schwartz, who I think would be my dream candidate over Gus Bradley. But it's just
also, speaking of offensive coordinator, the Niners had completed an interview with Iowa State passing game and wide receiver Noah Pauley, which was last off season. No, that was last off season. So let's see. Why can I not find it? Yeah, because I'm seeing all the special teams one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, Deshaun Townsend, which is the passing and corner defensive backs
Yeah.
coach. I think it was like, oh yeah, it's kind of hard to find because it was like a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see if I can keep finding it though.
All right. Here's an article while you look for it from Denzel Ward. This is the Browns.com talking about Jim Schwartz. He said, Coach Schwartz, he's a great coach. He has helped my game tremendously. Ward said, he puts us in a great position, great leader, and I can't say enough great things about him. I think he's a guy who you want as a coach and somebody to lead a team. So it looks like
Mm,
obviously the players really respect Jim Schwartz. Obviously, he's a great coordinator. He's putting up that Browns defense to be a top squad
mm,
in the league. Um, and he's one of the reasons why Miles Garrett has broken the single season sack record as well.
yeah. Okay, I finally found it. It was Chiefs DB's coach David Merritt
David Merritt.
that they had interviewed like 2024. So
Oh dang, it was 2 years
yeah,
ago.
that was like after the Super Bowl when Wilkes.
Oh dang. I
Yeah.
wish I think no, because Spagnuolo went back to the Chiefs. I know there was some talk like 2 years ago about the Niners trying to hire a Spagnuolo. That would have been awesome.
Yeah, I hope we get a new O-line coach.
Yeah, Chris Forster. Shannon just likes it. Shannon is so tied to his player or to not even just his players, but his coordinators and his coaches that he brings in. That's I feel like one of the flaws
Yeah.
about Shanahan is just he's so dependent on guys that
Mhm.
he's coached with before.
Yeah.
But
But
other than that, do you have any other thoughts on the defensive coordinator thing? I think I haven't
yeah,
seen
it's
any
gonna
news
be
on it right now.
interesting. I think hopefully we start getting some names.
Yeah.
That'd be great. To kind of know again, even though some of them will be like for the Ronnie rule, like okay,
Mhm.
which ones will actually they have interest in. But I'm at least glad like this year too, they have the actual time to like go through it, even though they, we're in the playoffs. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
they should still got a little bit more time to jump ahead and get this. I'm also interested to see what John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan say
Mhm. Oh,
tomorrow. Because
Wednesday.
reminder, 11:30 a.m. Pacific. John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan speaking tomorrow to the media. So
That'll be huge.
definitely, hopefully, we get something, there about the
Some update about
defensive. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, but yeah,
All right. Well, other than that, I think we'll end it here.
yeah.
Make sure, guys, follow 49 Media on do your plugs right here.
Sure, yeah. Appreciate you having me on. I think, guys, we're gonna try to do this in the off season, um, where we'll just kind of be switching who hosts. Like we still both have it on our channels, but it's like Cole was hosting this time,
Host.
so
Yeah.
then I'll be doing it next time. But yeah, guys, follow me over on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Mainly on I'd say YouTube and Twitter are kind of the main places, Instagram as well.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I'll be definitely, whenever there's any breaking news, I think the number one piece of thing that needs to get figured out here is the whole Brandon Ayuk
Yes.
thing.
I wonder
I
if we'll
think
get
that's number
answers
one on
tomorrow.
the bucket list or on the list. And
Yeah.
they're obviously hiring a new defensive coordinator. So yeah, it's been fun though,
Yeah.
doing this. So yeah.
Yeah, guys, make sure to keep a lookout for that all off season. We're gonna, yeah, do this every week, hopefully. Make sure also follow me, First and 49ers, on YouTube, X, TikTok, Instagram, mainly on YouTube and Instagram as well. But yeah, tomorrow, Wednesday, 11:30 p.m. or a.m. Pacific, that's gonna be the huge time. Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch talking
Mm.
about the season. Hopefully, we get some answers on Brandon Ayuk, the defensive coordinator position. But that's it for us today. Go Niners and stay faithful, baby. Talk to you guys
Yep.
later. Thank you
Go
guys all for
Niners.
being in the chat as well. Appreciate you guys all in there.
Yeah.
Captain Niner, and Crazy Juice 2578 and 604 Lobos. Appreciate you guys. Have a good one.
Touchdown! Francisco.